Welcome to the Bookish Quilter, where we talk about quilts and we talk about books. My name is Barbara, and today we're going to talk about how to save a lot of money on your batting by Frankenbatting. If you don't know what Frankenbatting is, it's piecing together the leftover pieces of quilt batting from previous quilts. I'm going to show you 4 different ways of doing it, depending on your sewing machine, whether you want to hand or machine stitch it together, and the type of batting you have. So let's get started. First, I'm going to talk about batting. If you're going to Frankenbat, it is important that you have the same type of batting for all the pieces in your batting that you're putting together. Do not mix poly and cotton blends and wool and bamboo or whatever. You want them all to be the same fiber content because they will react the same when washed. So I'm going to start with the most basic way that most people Frankenbat their quilts, and that's using a zigzag stitch. When you're Frankenbatting, one of the things you want to make sure is that the 2 edges that you're butting together are straight. So trim them so you have a nice straight line and you can butt them together. You're going to put them under your presser foot and put a zigzag foot on your machine and set your machine for the widest zigzag stitch that you can do. And that's going to vary with your machine. And I like to set my stitch length to approximately 2.5 to 3. You're going to hold those pieces together under your presser foot, and you want the place where they butt together to line up in the center of where your zigzag stitch is going to be. Go slowly and just make sure that you keep that straight under your foot. Off now. I'm going to switch machines and I'm going to show you a different method. But as you can see here, we have a zigzag stitch. Many quilters use a larger straight stitch only machine for their quilting. I do most of mine on my Brother 1500. It has a 9-inch arm and it's a high-speed machine and is really good for free motion. Before I had my long arm, I did dozens, if not hundreds, of quilts on it. So that's what I'm going to show you, method number 2. You want to put your free motion foot on, drop your feed dogs, and do whatever you need to do to your machine to have it set up to do free motion quilting on a thick piece of fabric, or your batting here. So you may have to adjust your pressure foot tension if your machine has that possibility. So now I'm all set up to go, and I'm going to slowly free motion stitch a serpentine stitch that's going to go back and forth, catching both sides of my batting. I'm going to now clip off my extra thread and just keep going. And you'll see that is sewn together. I'm going to cut the thread and show you up close. You probably won't be able to see because I used neutral thread. And that's something I do want to talk about too, is when you're Frankenbatting, use a thread close to your batting color. That way, if your quilt has a light or white background, your thread won't show through. So this is method number 2. Method number 3 does not need a sewing machine at all, and I'll be back with that in a minute. There's a product on the market called batting tape, and I have used it in the past, but I discovered it's basically the same as fusible interfacing. Fusible interfacing is not to be confused with fusible webbing that's used for quilting. Fusible interfacing is not paper backed and does not have sticky on both sides. It's used basically in dressmaking. It's where you would want a little extra stability, say under a neckline or in a collar or cuffs. So what I do is I cut my fusible lightweight interfacing into strips. This strip is 1.5 inches long. I'm sorry, 1.5 inches wide. That seems to be a good manageable width, easy enough to cut and easy enough to handle. So you're going to butt your 2 pieces together. You're going to lay your strip on top of it, set your iron to a medium-high heat, and put a press cloth over it. My press cloth is just an old piece of muslin. Hold your iron down for a few seconds and then slowly move it up and down. Go up and go back. And you just want to press. And when you lift, let it cool a few seconds and lift. And now you have your 2 pieces fused together. Now these 3 methods all work with fairly dense types of batting. In other words, this is a poly cotton blend 80-20. It will work with 100% cotton, and it will work with the denser types of polyester. By denser, I mean something like this. You can see this is a pretty dense, it's not heavy, it's not thick, but it is dense. You can't see through it. So this is also good for any of those. I probably wouldn't use the fusible one, but for either the free motion or the zigzag stitch. The 4th method is the best for puffy polyester like this, and that is hand stitching. And why I prefer hand over machine is I find no matter whether I do the zigzag or the free motion method, this is wiggly. It doesn't stay very straight, and I find that I'll have 3/4 of the seam will be perfectly stitched, and then I'll have a big gap where the batting has moved just enough for there to be a hole. So I'm going to hand stitch this, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, to make my stitches visible, I have a dark blue thread, but as I said, you should use a neutral thread that is similar to the color of your batting. I'm going to take a rather long piece, and I'm going to knot the end. Doesn't have to be a nice neat knot. You want a big sloppy one so it doesn't pull through. You're going to take a stitch from one side of your batting and go through the other and pull gently. And you want to just whip stitch back and forth like this. Don't pull too tight. You want your threads to lay flat, but you don't want it to pucker up like this. Your batting has to lay pretty flat. And again, just go down. This isn't a tedious type of sewing. It's fast. You're taking big sloppy stitches. You don't have to be neat. They do not need to be even, as long as you get batting from both sides of the join. And just keep going like that. Now there's no minimum or maximum size for your Frankenbatting pieces. I've made very large quilts and I've made very small quilts using Frankenbatted batting. I personally buy most of my batting in queen size. I find it's a pretty cost-effective way to buy it for the size quilts I do. And I can get a minimum of 3 quilts out of every 2 queen size battings because I do primarily what I would call large lap size. Quilts that range from 50 something to say 72 inches. So there is the last method. And as you can see, it goes fairly quickly. I hope you've liked this, and you will definitely save quite a bit of money on your batting for a very, very small bit of time. It does not take a long time to do this. And you may want to start Frankenbatting as soon as you know what size your quilt is going to be. You don't have to wait till the end. Start saving your battings. And as I said, the important thing is that you use the same type of batting throughout. And many quilters do have a favorite batting, whether it's on the roll or by the package. So stick with whatever you like, it doesn't matter. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if so, give it a like and a thumbs up and subscribe and all that good stuff. And now we're going to go back to the book. The book I'm going to talk about today is Playmaker by Thomas Keneally. It takes place in what is now Sydney, Australia in 1789. The title character, the Playmaker, refers to a Royal Marine lieutenant by the name of Ralph Clark. Ralph is ordered by the governor to put on a play using convicts as the characters in the play for the king's birthday celebration. And he's given 2 months to do this. He has no experience in any of this, nor do the convicts. Many of them can't read. He has 1 copy of the book. He has to find a convict who can write well enough to literally copy that 1 copy of the book. So there's a 2nd copy for people to use. And the show must go on. Also, at the same time, people are trying to survive in this harsh new land. There's very little food. Provisions take 8 months to come to Australia. It's a totally different place from what they're used to. And you see both the grit of the people in trying to survive and the awe of being in a totally different land. One of the characters is a gentleman by the name of Captain Davy Collins. And Davy is so fascinated by everything that's taking place in this land. Just the different constellations when he looks up in the sky, the different animals, the different plants, the different climate. And it just makes you think about what it really must have been like to be there at that time. It's a book that has a great deal of humor in it and a very interesting twist in that the characters in the book were all real people. And I thought long and hard about telling you that, but I realized it maybe will make your reading experience even more interesting knowing that these people did really exist and survived and went on to become Australia today. So again, The Playmaker by Thomas Keneally. One interesting little tidbit was there was a time when they were actually planning on making a movie version of it. It never got off the ground. It was going to be a Merchant Ivory production, directed by Peter Weir. So it, would have been quite a good movie. But never got off the ground, which is sad because I would have loved to have seen a movie version of this. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you'll give Frankenbatting a try if you've never done it. And please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Have a good day. Bye-bye.